Interstellar observers gasped as a human tore the heart from a cosmic predator. Trapped in the creature's tendrils, Major Helena Miles made her desperate gambit. With her hydraulic actuator, she struck deep into the pulsating crystalline heart. Blue-green energy spilled forth as the massive entity convulsed in pain. In that violent moment, humanity's place among the stars was forever redefined. The stars stretched like brilliant gems across the void, their cold light casting long shadows inside the observation deck of Ethan 7. Major Helena Miles stood with her hands clasped behind her back, gazing through the reinforced plasma glass at the distant ring of the Sauri star belt. The cosmic spectacle might have been beautiful if she hadn't been so acutely aware of what lurked beyond that shimmering boundary. "Major Miles, your presence is requested in Chamber 4, announced the station's AI in its flat, synthetic voice. Xenowatcher team has made contact. Helena's spine stiffened. She had been expecting this call, dreading it even. But now that it had come, she felt only a cold certainty settling in her chest. On my way, she replied, turning sharply on her heel. Ethan 7 hummed with activity as she strode through its winding corridors. The Interstellar Observation Station was humanity's proudest achievement in cooperative alien relations, a joint venture between 17 sentient species dedicated to studying the myriad forms of life that drifted through the cosmos. As Earth's primary xenofauna specialist, Helena had earned her place here through years of dedicated research and fieldwork. Yet, even after 3 years aboard, she still felt the weight of representing her entire species among beings who viewed humans with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. The Xenowatchers were already gathered when she arrived at Chamber 4, their diverse physiologies clustered around the central holographic display. Lieutenant Cathar, a Therian with sleek, feline features and obsidian skin that absorbed light rather than reflected it, acknowledged her with a slight incline of his head. "Major Miles," he said, his voice a low rumble that seemed to emanate from somewhere deep in his chest, rather than his mouth. "We have confirmed signatures matching the entity classification." Helena nodded, stepping up to the display. The hologram showed a section of deep space beyond the Saurus belt, a region informally known as the Void Cube, due to its unusual absence of stars. Within that darkness, a faint energy signature pulsed, rhythmic, organic, and unmistakably alive. "Cosmic predator," she said quietly, the words leaving a metallic taste in her mouth. "How long has it been active?" "Approximately 27 standard hours," replied another Xenowatcher. This one, a Mersive whose liquid crystal body shimmered with data patterns. "It appears to be in a hunting phase, following the radiation trail of a merchant vessel that passed through the sector last week." Helena studied the pulsing signature with a professional detachment that belied the chill running down her spine. The cosmic predator was no mere animal. It was an apex predator of interstellar space, a creature so rarely encountered that most considered it mythical. What little data existed suggested a creature of immense size and incomprehensible biology, capable of surviving the vacuum of space and hunting across light years. "We should send a probe," suggested Dr. Rao, the station's chief xenobiologist. Unlike Helena, who specialized in the practical study of alien fauna, Rao approached all life with the cool analysis of pure science. His tall, lanky frame seemed perpetually hunched over displays and samples, his dark eyes bright with an intelligence that made many uncomfortable. "If we can collect tissue samples." "Absolutely not," interrupted Cathar, his tail lashing with agitation. "The last research team that attempted close observation of a predator never returned. We should maintain distance and merely record." Helena listened to the debate unfold with half an ear, her attention fixed on the pulsing signature. There was something almost hypnotic about its rhythm, something that reminded her of... "Heart," she murmured, then louder. "It's a heartbeat. We're tracking its cardiovascular system. The chamber fell silent as all eyes turned to her. Explain, demanded Cathar. Helena reached out, manipulating the hologram to overlay previous sensor readings. Look at the pattern. It's not random energy fluctuations. It's pumping something through its system. And the peak emissions correspond exactly to what we'd expect from a centralized circulation organ. Dr. Rao leaned forward, his skepticism giving way to excitement. If you're right, this could revolutionize our understanding of cosmic biology. No known space-dwelling organism has a circulatory system that resembles terrestrial models. It doesn't matter what pumps its blood, Cathar growled. What matters is that it's moving toward active shipping lanes. If it continues on this trajectory, it could intercept the Delirian colony transport, scheduled to pass through next week. The implications hung heavy in the air. A cosmic predator attacking a colony ship would be catastrophic. Thousands of lives lost in the cold void, with no hope of rescue. We need to monitor it more closely, Helena said finally, making a decision. I propose a manned observation mission. Small craft. Minimal energy signature. Just close enough to gather detailed data without provoking it. Too dangerous, Cathar objected immediately. Necessary, countered Helena. We need to understand its behavior if we're going to predict its movements, and automated probes might trigger its hunting instincts. They're too similar to the small scout ships it typically preys on. The debate raged for another hour before Station Commander Voss finally authorized the mission. Helena would lead a small team in the station's research vessel, the Sparrow, equipped with the most advanced stealth and observation technology available. Their mission was simple: observe, record, and under no circumstances engage. As Helena left the chamber to prepare, Dr. Rao fell into step beside her. This is a remarkable opportunity, he said, his voice tinged with barely contained excitement. If we could obtain even a small tissue sample. That's not the mission. Rao, Helena cut him off firmly. We observe only. This thing has killed entire research teams before. Rao's expression darkened. Science requires risk. Major, you of all people should understand that. Your father. Leave my father out of this, Helena snapped, stopping abruptly in the corridor. The mention of her father, renowned xenobiologist James Miles, who had disappeared on a research expedition when Helena was just 16, still had the power to crack her professional composure. This isn't about advancing science. It's about protecting lives. Rao regarded her with those unsettlingly perceptive eyes. Are they truly separate concerns? Knowledge saves lives. Major, always has. He walked away, leaving Helena with a familiar knot of tension between her shoulders. Rao wasn't wrong. Her father had made the same arguments countless times. Knowledge at any cost. Understanding above all else. It was that philosophy that had ultimately taken him from her. Helena pushed the thought away and continued toward her quarters to prepare. The mission would launch in 6 hours. She needed to be ready. Her private quarters were sparse by most standards, a legacy of her military background. The only personal touch was a small, holographic projector on her desk, currently displaying an image of her father standing beside a younger Helena at her academy graduation. His face was frozen in an expression of pride that still made her heart ache after all these years. "Activate Father Protocol," she said quietly. The image flickered, then reformed into a more dynamic hologram, an AI construct built from her father's research notes, personal journals, and the limited recordings that existed of him. It wasn't really him, of course. Just an advanced simulation designed to mimic his thought patterns and expertise. Helena had created it during her second year at the academy, partly as a programming exercise and partly to fill the void his absence had left. "Hello, Helena," said the AI, its voice a reasonable facsimile of James Miles. "How can I assist you today?" "I'm leading a mission to observe a cosmic predator," she said. watching the hologram's expression shift to one of intense interest, just as the real James would have reacted. Any advice? The AI processed this request, drawing from its database. Fascinating. My records on cosmic predators are limited, but I did theorize about them in my later work. I believed they might be utilizing a form of biological radiation for both hunting and propulsion through space. We've detected what seems to be a cardiovascular system, Helena informed it, pulling up the sensor data on her tablet and displaying it for the AI to analyze. Yes, I see it. The AI nodded, its expression thoughtful. The radiation signature suggests a central organ, possibly what you might call a heart, though its function is likely far more complex. It may serve as both an energy generator and a navigation system. Helena leaned forward. A weakness. The AI paused, simulating her father's characteristic thoughtfulness, before answering a challenging question. Potentially, any centralized system represents a vulnerability, but reaching it would be extremely difficult. My theoretical models suggested a multi-layered defensive structure, essentially a biological fortress protecting this central organ. Helena nodded, making mental notes. The AI wasn't telling her anything she hadn't already considered, but hearing it in her father's voice somehow made the information feel more solid, more reliable. Be careful, Helena, the AI added, in a perfect imitation of her father's concerned tone. These creatures evolved to survive the harshest environment imaginable. They've developed predatory instincts beyond our comprehension. I will, she promised, then deactivated the projection. The room felt emptier without it. 6 hours later, Helena stood in the Sparrow's airlock, conducting final checks on her exosuit. The research vessel was small, but well-equipped, designed specifically for close observation missions in hostile environments. Its hull was coated with radiation-absorbing materials that rendered it nearly invisible to most detection methods, and its engines were designed to mimic the ambient energy patterns of cosmic background radiation. Lieutenant Cathar approached, his own species-adapted exosuit, making him look even more imposing. My people have a saying, Major. To observe the apex is to become its prey. Helena smiled thinly. On Earth, we say knowledge is power. I prefer our approach. Cathar's expression remained inscrutable, but Helena thought she detected a slight bristling of the fur around his neck, a sign of respect among Therians. We shall see whose philosophy prevails in the void. The mission team consisted of 6 members: Helena, Cathar, Dr. Rao, who had insisted on coming despite Helena's objections, and 3 specialists, a sensor technician, a pilot, and a communications officer. A small team, as promised, but with enough expertise to gather the data they needed. As the Sparrow detached from Ethan 7 and slipped silently into the darkness of space, Helena felt a familiar tension settling in her chest. It wasn't fear, exactly. More like the heightened awareness that came before a storm. Something primal and instinctive that recognized when danger approached. The journey to the Void Cube took nearly 14 hours, during which the team reviewed all available data on cosmic predators and ran continuous simulations of potential encounters. The more they studied, the clearer it became that they were venturing into near-complete scientific darkness. The creatures were simply too rare, too elusive, and too deadly for comprehensive study. Coming up on the target coordinates, announced the pilot, a young human named Torres, whose hands moved over the controls with practiced precision, reducing power to minimal levels and engaging full stealth protocols. The Sparrow's lights dimmed, and a subtle change in the hum of its engines indicated the shift to stealth mode. On the main view screen, the starless expanse of the Void Cube loomed, a perfect black emptiness that seemed to swallow light itself. Sensors detecting the energy signature at bearing 047, range approximately 300,000 kilometers, reported the sensor technician. A Mersiv named Trill, whose liquid crystal form rippled with concentration. "Take us in slowly," Helena ordered. "Maintain distance at no less than 100,000 kilometers for initial observations." The Sparrow glided forward, a ghost in the darkness. As they approached, the energy signature on their sensors grew stronger, more defined. Helena stood behind Trill, watching as the readings transformed from abstract data into a clearer picture of their quarry. "Magnitude estimates are concerning," Trill reported, their voice fluctuating with the crystalline patterns of their body. "The entity appears to be approximately 1.2 kilometers in length." A stunned silence fell over the bridge. "That can't be right," Dr. Rao said finally, moving to examine the sensor readings himself. No biological organism could sustain itself at that size in deep space. The energy requirements alone are being met by whatever that central organ is. Helena finished for him, pointing to the pulsing signature at the core of the creature. "Look at the output. It's generating enough energy to power a small city." Cathar growled low in his throat, a sound that his translator didn't bother to convert into words, but that Helena recognized as an expression of deep unease. "Visual range in 60 seconds, Torres announced, his voice tight with tension. Helena moved to the command chair, strapping herself in. "All personnel secure for possible evasive maneuvers. Trill, begin full spectrum analysis. Record everything." The seconds ticked by with excruciating slowness. Then, gradually, a shape began to resolve on the forward view screen, a darker patch against the already black backdrop of the void cube. "Magnifying," Torres said unnecessarily, his fingers dancing across the controls. The image sharpened, and collective gasps echoed around the bridge. The cosmic predator defied easy description. Its form was vaguely reminiscent of Earth's deep-sea creatures, a central mass surrounded by undulating appendages that might have been fins or tentacles. But the similarities ended there. Its surface was covered in what appeared to be armored plates that shifted and realigned as the creature moved, creating patterns that hurt the eyes to look at directly. And at its center, visible through occasional gaps in its armored exterior, pulsed a brilliant blue-green light, rhythmic, hypnotic, and undeniably alive. "It's beautiful," breathed Dr. Rao, his scientific detachment momentarily forgotten. Helena couldn't disagree. There was a terrible majesty to the creature, a primal perfection that spoke to something deep and instinctive in her. "No signs that it's detected us," Trill reported, their form rippling with data streams. "Its movement patterns suggest standard navigational behavior, not hunting or evasion." "Good," Helena nodded. "Let's begin the observation protocol. Full sensor sweep, spectral analysis, behavioral monitoring. I want—" A sudden alarm cut her off. "Energy spike!" Trill exclaimed, their crystalline form flashing with warning patterns. "The entity is—" The rest of their words were lost as the Sparrow suddenly lurched violently to one side. Helena gripped her chair as the ship's artificial gravity struggled to compensate for the abrupt maneuver. "It's coming toward us!" Torres shouted, hands flying over the controls. "Accelerating rapidly!" On the view screen, the cosmic predator had changed. Its armored plates had reconfigured, streamlining its massive form. The appendages now extended straight back, and the blue-green light at its core pulsed with increased intensity. It moved with impossible speed for something of its size, covering the distance between them in seconds rather than minutes. "Evasive maneuvers," Helena ordered. "Get us out of here!" Torres needed no encouragement. The Sparrow banked hard, its engines straining as it attempted to outrun a predator that had evolved to hunt across the stars. For a moment, it seemed they might succeed. The creature fell behind as the ship accelerated to maximum speed. Then a massive appendage lashed out, impossibly long, stretching across the void to wrap around the Sparrow's hull. "Breach in sectors 7 and 9, the communications officer shouted, as warning lights flooded the bridge with crimson illumination. Hull integrity compromised. Helena felt the ship shudder as the Predator began to reel them in. Alarms blared, and emergency force fields snapped into place around the damaged sections of the hull. "Weapons!" Cathar demanded. "We must fight!" "Research vessel," Helena reminded him grimly. "Limited defensive capabilities only." Even as she spoke, she was already moving toward the weapons console. The Sparrow carried a small arsenal, primarily designed for clearing cosmic debris, but capable of being repurposed. She activated the external laser array, targeting the appendage that held them. "Full power to forward lasers," she ordered. "Fire!" Brilliant beams of concentrated energy lanced out from the Sparrow, striking the Predator's appendage. For a moment, the creature's grip seemed to loosen. Then, the lasers simply stopped. Not reflected or absorbed, but negated, as if the energy itself had been cancelled out upon contact with the creature's armor. "Impossible," Dr. Rao whispered, staring at the readings. "It's neutralizing the energy signature. Some kind of adaptive defense mechanism." Before Helena could respond, the ship lurched again as the Predator pulled them closer. Through the view screen, she could now see details of its armored plates, intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, yet were clearly solid and impenetrable. "Missiles," she decided. "Physical impact might succeed where energy weapons failed. Target the base of the appendage holding us." Cathar moved to the weapons console, his clawed hands working the controls with surprising dexterity. Missiles armed, targeting. "Fire!" Two slim projectiles shot from the Sparrow's underside, streaking toward the massive appendage. They detonated on impact, the explosions briefly illuminating the darkness of space. For a heartbeat, Helena dared to hope. Then the smoke cleared, revealing the appendage entirely unharmed. If anything, the armor plates had thickened in response to the attack. "No effect," Cathar snarled, frustration evident in his voice. The Predator continued to pull them closer, the blue-green light of its core now bright enough to cast eerie shadows across the bridge. Helena could see they had perhaps minutes before they were brought directly against the creature's main body, a position from which no ship had ever escaped. "We need to overload the engines," she said, the decision crystallizing in her mind with sudden clarity. "Create a focused plasma burst right at the point where it's holding us. It might not damage it, but the sudden energy release could startle it enough to let go." "That would cripple our propulsion system," Torres objected. "We'd be stranded." "Better stranded than dead," Helena countered. "Do it." Torres hesitated only a moment before nodding and beginning the necessary preparations. The process would take precious minutes, time they might not have. As if sensing their desperate plan, the Predator suddenly accelerated its attack. The appendage contracted sharply, yanking the Sparrow toward its main body with horrifying speed. The ship's structure groaned under the strain, and new alarms joined the cacophony, already filling the bridge. "Structural integrity failing," the communications officer reported. "We can't take much more of this." Helena watched in helpless horror as a section of the view screen showed the creature's main body, looming ever closer. Its armored plates were shifting again, reconfiguring to form what appeared to be a massive opening, a maw designed to engulf the entire ship. "Engine overload in 30 seconds, Torres called out, his voice strained. It wouldn't be soon enough. At their current rate of approach, they would be inside the creature in less than 20 seconds. Helena made a split-second decision. "Divert all remaining power to the forward shields," she ordered. "Concentrate it in a single point at our bow. Make it as focused and dense as possible." Cathar understood immediately. "You intend to use the ship as a weapon?" "As a spear," Helena confirmed. "If we can't escape its grip, maybe we can hurt it from the inside." The plan was desperate, borderline suicidal, but it was all they had left. Torres reconfigured the power systems, channeling every spare watt into the forward shields, compressing them into a concentrated point that began to glow white-hot at the very tip of the ship. "Brace for impact!" Helena shouted, as the sparrow was pulled inexorably into the creature's maw. The ship shuddered violently as it passed through the opening, the compressed shield point burning its way through layers of internal tissue. For a terrible moment, they were engulfed in darkness. Then suddenly, they were inside a vast, cavernous space illuminated by the same blue-green light they had observed from outside. The sparrow's sensors went haywire, overwhelmed by the alien environment. Through the view screen, Helena could see what appeared to be massive organs suspended in a thick, luminescent fluid. Structures that defied classification pulsed and undulated all around them. And at the center of it all, partially obscured by a forest of tendril-like structures, was the source of the light. A massive, pulsating organ that could only be the creature's heart. Then, the engine overload triggered. A massive burst of plasma erupted from the sparrow's rear, flooding the internal cavity with superheated particles. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The predator convulsed, its entire body contracting in what could only be interpreted as pain. The appendage holding the ship suddenly released, and the sparrow was sent tumbling through the internal space. "Stabilize!" Helena ordered, gripping her chair as the artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. Torres fought with the controls, managing to halt their chaotic tumble. But the news wasn't good. "Engines are completely offline," he reported grimly. "Life support functioning on emergency power only. We have maybe 6 hours before it fails." Helena surveyed the damage reports flooding her console. The sparrow was crippled, trapped inside a creature that had already demonstrated its ability to neutralize energy weapons and resist physical attacks. Their options were rapidly dwindling toward zero. "The heart," Dr. Rao said suddenly, pointing to the central organ still visible through the view screen. "That's its weakness. Everything else is defense and locomotion. But that's what keeps it alive." Helena studied the pulsating organ with new interest. The AI version of her father had suggested the same thing, a centralized system that represented both the creature's greatest strength and its most critical vulnerability. "If we could reach it," Cathar mused, following her line of thought, "perhaps a direct attack would succeed where our external efforts failed." Helena nodded slowly, a plan forming in her mind. "We have one functioning shuttle in the bay," she said. "Small enough to navigate through these internal structures. If I could get close enough to place explosive charges directly on that organ—" "Suicide," Cathar stated flatly. "Maybe not," Helena countered. "The shuttle's small enough that I might be able to find a way out afterward. Maybe through the same opening we came in. The creature seems to be in distress. It might not be able to prevent a small craft from escaping." "I should go," Dr. Rao volunteered unexpectedly. "This is a scientific mission, and I—" "No," Helena cut him off. "This is now a military operation, and I'm the ranking officer. Besides, I've had more training in EVA maneuvering and explosive handling." The real reason, which she left unspoken, was that she wouldn't ask anyone else to undertake what might very well be a suicide mission. As commander, the responsibility was hers alone. Cathar studied her for a long moment, then inclined his head in the Therian gesture of respect. "Your species continues to surprise me. Major Miles, perhaps there is more to humans than we previously assessed." Helena managed a tight smile. "Let's hope that assessment still stands after this is over." She turned to Torres. "How long can you keep the main ship stable?" "With emergency power? 4, maybe 5 hours. After that, life support fails completely." "Then I'd better not waste time," Helena said grimly, already moving toward the door. "Lieutenant Cathar, you have command until I return. If I'm not back in 3 hours, try to find another way out. Use the remaining shuttle if necessary." She paused at the doorway, looking back at her crew, human and alien alike, all watching her with expressions ranging from hope to resignation. "This isn't over yet," she told them firmly. "We're going home." In the shuttle bay, Helena worked quickly to prepare both her equipment and the small craft that would carry her to the Predator's heart. The shuttle was little more than a cockpit with minimal life support and thrusters, designed for short transport between ships, not for combat or extended missions. But its small size would be an advantage in navigating the creature's internal structures. As she worked, she activated her personal AI interface. "Father protocol active," she murmured. The holographic representation of James Miles appeared beside her, watching as she secured explosive charges to the shuttle's exterior. "A daring plan," the AI commented. "Though I question the explosive yield you've selected. My calculations suggest it may be insufficient." Helena paused, considering this. "I'm limited by what we have on board. These charges are designed for clearing space debris, not for this." The AI processed this information. "You might consider an alternative approach. My research suggested that the hard equivalent of such creatures might be sensitive to certain frequencies of energy, specifically rapid fluctuations rather than continuous output." Helena looked up sharply. "Like a pulse weapon?" "Precisely. But more importantly, direct physical disruption might be most effective. These creatures evolved to defend against energy-based threats, radiation, plasma, even conventional explosives. But a direct, mechanical attack on the central organ, that may be something their defenses aren't designed to counter." Helena considered this, her mind racing. The Sparrow carried a limited selection of tools, mostly scientific equipment and emergency repair gear. But in the machine shop, 20 minutes later, she had modified her plan. In addition to the explosive charges, she had attached a hydraulic ram to the shuttle's front, originally part of the ship's emergency hull repair kit, now repurposed as a weapon. The ram was powered by a self-contained system that would deliver a single, devastating thrust upon impact. She had also equipped herself with a powered exosuit, designed for operations in high-pressure environments. If necessary, she could leave the shuttle and approach the heart directly, a last resort, but an option she needed to have available. "Shuttle modifications complete," she reported over the comlink to the bridge. "Launching in 2 minutes." "Understood," came Cathar's reply. "We are monitoring your position from here. The creature appears to have stabilized somewhat, but internal movements continue. Exercise extreme caution." Helena settled into the shuttle's cockpit, running through final checks. The small craft had enough power for perhaps an hour of operation. After that, she would be stranded if she hadn't already completed her mission. "Launch sequence initiated," she announced, more for her own benefit than for the crew's. The shuttle bay doors opened, revealing the bizarre internal landscape of the cosmic predator. The shuttle eased forward, thrusters pulsing gently in the thick fluid that filled the creature's interior. Helena navigated carefully, weaving between massive tendrils and organ-like structures that pulsed with their own internal rhythms. The blue-green light that permeated everything made navigation challenging, casting strange shadows and creating optical illusions that distorted her perception of distance. "Remarkable biology," commented the AI, its holographic form analyzing the structures they passed. "These appear to be some form of filtration system, perhaps for processing energy rather than matter. And those nodules might be equivalent to a nervous system, though distributed rather than centralized." Helena only half listened, her focus on piloting the shuttle toward the central heart. The organ pulsed ahead of her, growing larger as she approached. Up close, it was even more mesmerizing, a massive structure that seemed to be composed of layers of crystalline material interwoven with organic tissue. With each pulse, waves of blue-green energy radiated outward, powering the entire organism. "Approaching optimal position," she murmured, maneuvering the shuttle to within 50 meters of the heart. "Preparing to deploy charges?" As if sensing her intentions, the environment around her suddenly changed. The fluid thickened, becoming more viscous and resistant to the shuttle's movement. Tendrils that had hung motionless now began to undulate, reaching toward the small craft with clear purpose. "It's responding defensively," the AI warned. "These internal systems appear to be an immune response." Helena pushed the thrusters to maximum, fighting against the increasing resistance. A tendril lashed against the shuttle's hull, rocking it violently. Another wrapped around one of the maneuvering vanes, threatening to immobilize the craft entirely. Direct approach isn't working, she decided, veering away from the heart and toward a dense cluster of smaller organs nearby. Need to find another angle. She navigated into a narrow space between two pulsating structures, using them as temporary shelter from the probing tendrils. From this position, she had a different view of the heart, and noticed something she hadn't seen before. "There's a rhythm to the defensive response," she observed. "The tendrils extend fully when the heart pulses, then retract slightly between beats. There's a window of opportunity." The AI analyzed the pattern. Approximately 3.7 seconds between full extension and the beginning of retraction. Not much time for maneuvering. "It's enough," Helena decided. "I'll time my approach to the rhythm. Get close enough during the retraction phase to deploy the charges, then pull back before the next extension." It was a desperate plan, but no more desperate than their overall situation. Helena watched the pulsing heart carefully, timing the pattern of extension and retraction. When she was confident in her understanding, she eased the shuttle forward, emerging from its temporary shelter. The first approach was a near disaster. She misjudged the timing by less than a second, and a tendril grazed the shuttle's underside, sending it into a spin that took precious moments to correct. The second attempt was better. She managed to advance 10 meters closer to the heart before having to retreat. On the third approach, she pushed the shuttle to its limits, accelerating hard during the retraction phase. She closed to within 20 meters of the heart, close enough to deploy the first explosive charge. The magnetic clamp launched from the shuttle, arcing through the viscous fluid to attach itself to the heart's crystalline surface. "First charge deployed," she reported, already maneuvering for retreat as the tendrils began to extend again. 2 more to go. The second charge was deployed on the next cycle, attaching to a different section of the heart. But as Helena maneuvered for her third approach, the creature's defense mechanisms suddenly changed. Instead of following the previous pattern, the tendrils remained fully extended, creating an impenetrable barrier between the shuttle and the heart. "It's adapting," the AI warned, "learning from your attack pattern." Helena gritted her teeth, reassessing her options. The 2 charges already deployed might be enough to damage the heart, but she couldn't be certain. And the hydraulic ram, her backup plan, required direct contact with the heart to be effective. "New approach," she decided. "I'm going EVA." "Helena," the AI said, using her first name in a perfect imitation of her father's concerned tone. "The risks are calculated," she finished for it. "The exosuit can withstand the pressure, and I'll be a smaller target than the shuttle. The tendrils are focused on the shuttle's energy signature. They might not immediately detect a single human." She didn't wait for the AI's response, already sealing her helmet and activating the exosuit systems. The suit was designed for emergency repairs in hostile environments, equipped with magnetic boots, thruster packs for maneuvering, and an integrated tool system. She attached the third explosive charge to her belt and secured the portable hydraulic actuator to her right arm, a smaller version of the ram she had attached to the shuttle, but perhaps sufficient for a direct strike if necessary. "EVA initiated," she announced over the comlink to the Sparrow. "Shuttle will remain on automatic hovering protocol. If I don't return in 20 minutes, detonate the charges remotely." She cycled through the shuttle's tiny airlock and emerged into the creature's interior. The sensation was indescribable, not like swimming, not like floating in 0G, but something utterly alien. The viscous fluid supported her weight while simultaneously resisting her movements. The blue-green light seemed to penetrate her suit, making her skin tingle with an energy that wasn't quite electrical, but wasn't quite radiation either. Helena activated her thrusters in short bursts, propelling herself toward the heart. As she had hoped, the tendrils remained focused on the shuttle, allowing her to slip past their defensive perimeter. The heart loomed before her, massive and pulsating, each beat sending visible waves of energy rippling through the surrounding fluid. Up close, the crystalline structure was even more intricate than it had appeared from a distance, layer upon layer of transparent material that somehow channeled and amplified the energy produced within. At the very center, visible through the layers, was a core of blindingly intense light, the true source of the creature's power. Helena positioned the third charge carefully, selecting a junction point where several crystal layers met. As she secured it in place, her hand brushed against the surface of the heart. Even through her insulated glove, she felt a jolt of energy that sent her nervous system haywire for a moment, a sensation of vastness, of ancient awareness, of hunger beyond human comprehension. She recoiled instinctively, her thruster pack firing to push her away from the heart. But the brief contact had not gone unnoticed. The tendrils suddenly abandoned their focus on the shuttle, whipping around to converge on her position. "They've detected me," she reported tersely, already maneuvering defensively. "Proceeding with detonation sequence." Her finger hovered over the remote detonator. 3 charges, strategically placed. It should be enough to rupture the heart's crystalline structure, to disrupt the energy flows that kept the massive predator alive. One press, and the mission would be complete. But something made her hesitate. That moment of contact, that fleeting impression of awareness. Had she imagined it? Or was there something more to this creature than simply a mindless predator? The hesitation cost her dearly. A tendril lashed out with impossible speed, wrapping around her leg and yanking her away from the heart. Another seized her arm, immobilizing the hand that held the detonator. More converged from all directions, encasing her in a living cocoon that tightened inexorably. Helena struggled against the constricting tendrils, but they were too strong, too numerous. Her exosuit systems whined in protest as the pressure increased, threatening to crush her. In moments, the structural integrity would fail, and the alien environment would rush in. In that desperate moment, Helena made her final decision. With her one partially free arm, the one equipped with the hydraulic actuator, she reached toward the heart. The tendrils pulled her back, but not before she managed to press the actuator against the crystalline surface and trigger its mechanism. The hydraulic piston fired with explosive force, driving deep into the crystalline layers of the heart. For an instant, nothing happened. Then a crack appeared, spreading rapidly across the surface. Blue-green energy began to leak from the breach, swirling in chaotic patterns through the surrounding fluid. The tendril's grip suddenly loosened as the creature convulsed around her. Helena seized the opportunity, firing her thrusters at maximum power to propel herself back toward the waiting shuttle. Behind her, the cracks in the heart were widening, releasing pulses of uncontrolled energy that sent shockwaves through the creature's interior. She reached the shuttle and dragged herself inside, cycling the airlock with desperate speed. As soon as the inner door sealed, she threw herself into the pilot's seat and engaged the engines. "Returning to Sparrow," she transmitted. "Heart damaged but not destroyed. Charges still in place as backup." The shuttle lurched forward, navigating through an environment that was rapidly becoming chaotic. The creature's internal structures were spasming violently, the fluid churning with conflicting currents. The blue-green light flickered erratically, creating a disorienting strobe effect that made navigation nearly impossible. Helena fought to maintain control, relying more on instruments than visual cues to guide her back to the Sparrow. The shuttle's hull groaned under the stress of buffeting currents and glancing impacts with flailing tendrils. A warning light indicated the propulsion system was beginning to fail. overtaxed by the desperate maneuvers required to avoid obstacles. 500 meters to Sparrow, she reported, her voice tight with concentration. Request emergency docking protocols. Acknowledged, came Cathar's response. Docking bay illuminated, and force field lowered. We are reading severe internal disruption throughout the creature. What did you do? Compromise the heart structure, Helena replied tersely, too focused on piloting to elaborate. Created a cascade failure in its energy regulation system. Not sure how long it will last. We need to be ready to detonate the charges if necessary. The Sparrow appeared ahead, its outline barely visible through the churning chaos. Helena adjusted course, lining up with the illuminated docking bay. The shuttle's failing engines protested as she pushed them for one final burst of speed. Coming in hot, she warned. Brace for impact. The shuttle slammed into the docking bay, skidding across the deck before grinding to a halt against the far wall. Helena was thrown forward against her restraints, the impact knocking the wind from her lungs. For a moment, she sat stunned, her vision swimming. Then emergency protocols kicked in, and she forced herself to move. "Aboard," she managed to transmit. "Close the bay doors and get us out of here." She staggered from the damaged shuttle, her exosuit showing multiple breach warnings. The docking bay doors were already closing, sealing off the view of the creature's chaotic interior. Gravity returned as the Sparrow's systems compensated for her presence, and Helena nearly collapsed under her own weight. Cathar was waiting for her, his expression as close to concerned as his alien features allowed. "The creature is in severe distress," he reported, supporting her as they made their way toward the bridge. "Its movements have become erratic. Dr. Rao believes it may be dying." "Or very angry," Helena countered, still struggling to catch her breath. "We need to find a way out before it recovers or collapses entirely around us." On the bridge, the situation was grim but controlled. Torres was at the helm, ready to maneuver if an opportunity presented itself. Trill monitored the creature's internal condition, their crystalline form rippling with data streams. Dr. Rao stood at a science station, analyzing readings with intense concentration. "Major," he acknowledged as she entered. "Remarkable work. The creature's energy output has decreased by approximately 67%. The damage to its central organ appears to be causing a cascading failure throughout its systems." "Can we use that to escape?" Helena asked, moving to the command chair. "Possibly," Rao nodded. "The disruption has created several weak points in its outer armor. If we can generate enough thrust to break through one of these points—" "Our engines are offline," Torres reminded them. "Even if we could restart them, we lack the power for that kind of maneuver." Helena considered their options. The explosive charges were still attached to the creature's heart, a final resort that would likely kill the predator, but might also trigger a catastrophic energy release that would destroy the Sparrow as well. Then an idea struck her. "The shuttle," she said. "It's damaged, but the core is intact. If we overloaded its power cells and detonated them against one of those weak points—" "It could create an opening," Cathar finished, understanding immediately. "A brief window for escape. But we'd still need propulsion," Torres objected. "We have the second shuttle," Helena reminded him. "Damaged from the initial attack, but its engines still function. We could adapt them to provide at least one powerful thrust, enough to get us through the opening before it closes." It was a desperate plan, but no one offered a better alternative. The next hour was a frenzy of activity as the crew worked to implement Helena's strategy. The functioning components from both shuttles were cannibalized and reconfigured. The power core from one set to overload as an improvised bomb. The engines from the other, attached to the Sparrow's exterior in a jury-rigged propulsion system. All the while, the creature continued to convulse around them. The damage to its heart had not proven immediately fatal, but had clearly disrupted its normal functions. The blue-green light fluctuated wildly, sometimes dimming to near darkness, sometimes flaring with dangerous intensity. "We're detecting movement," Trill reported, as the preparations neared completion. "The creature appears to be descending toward a planetary body in the nearby system." The view screen confirmed this analysis. Through the occasional glimpses they could get of the exterior, a barren, rocky world was gradually growing larger. A dead planet, orbiting a distant star. "It's seeking a safe place to heal," Dr. Rao theorized. "Or to die." Helena didn't care which, as long as they were no longer inside it when either happened. "How much longer until we reach the planet?" "Approximately 40 minutes at current velocity," Trill replied. "That's our window," Helena decided. "We need to be ready to implement the escape plan before we enter the planet's atmosphere. If we wait too long, the additional stress of atmospheric entry might kill the creature with us still inside." The final preparations were completed with minutes to spare. The improvised bomb, the shuttle's power core rigged to overload, was positioned near what sensors indicated was the thinnest point in the creature's outer armor. The jury-rigged engines were secured to the Sparrow's hull, aligned to provide maximum thrust through the opening the explosion would create. The crew strapped themselves into emergency acceleration harnesses. The improvised thrust would be neither gentle nor controlled, but rather a single violent push that would subject them to extreme G-forces for a brief period. "Bomb is armed," reported Cathar from the auxiliary control station. "Detonation in 30 seconds. Helena gripped the arms of her command chair, watching the countdown on the main display. 20 seconds. The creature's convulsions had increased in frequency, whether from their approach to the planet or from the continuing damage to its heart. She couldn't tell. 10 seconds. The view screen showed the dead planet looming large now, its cratered surface a bleak reminder of what awaited them if they failed. Detonation in 3, 2, 1. The explosion rocked the Sparrow, sending shockwaves through the creature's interior. On the view screen, they could see the blast tear through layers of armor and tissue, creating a ragged hole that momentarily exposed the vacuum of space beyond. "Now!" Helena shouted. Torres activated the jury-rigged engines. The Sparrow lurched forward with brutal force, throwing everyone against their restraints, despite the acceleration harnesses. The ship hurtled toward the opening, which was already beginning to close as the creature's remarkable healing abilities kicked in. For a terrible moment, it seemed they wouldn't make it, that the hole would seal before they could pass through. Then, the Sparrow's bow punctured the narrowing gap, tearing it wider as the ship forced its way through in a shower of alien tissue and crystalline fragments. They were out. The sudden transition from the fluid-filled interior to the vacuum of space created a momentary disorientation as the ship's systems struggled to adapt. Behind them, the massive form of the cosmic predator continued its descent toward the planet, a trail of blue-green energy leaking from its wounded form. "Stabilizing," Torres reported, his voice strained from the G-forces they had just experienced. "The improvised engines are burned out, but we're clear of the creature's influence." Helena released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Damage report." The news wasn't good. The Sparrow had survived, but just barely. Life support was functioning at minimal levels. Propulsion was non-existent beyond emergency maneuvering thrusters, and communications were limited to short range only. They were alive, but stranded in deep space with no way to return to Ethan 7 or call for help. "We're picking up an energy signature," Trill announced suddenly, their crystalline form brightening with excitement. "It matches Ethan 7 protocols. A rescue vessel. They've been searching for us." Sure enough, a ship appeared on their sensors, approaching rapidly from the direction of the Saurus Belt. Within hours, they were safely aboard the rescue vessel, the damaged Sparrow secured in its cargo bay for the return journey. As medical personnel tended to the injured crew members, Helena found herself on the observation deck, watching as the planet receded into the distance. The cosmic predator had completed its descent, coming to rest in a massive impact crater that was visible even from orbit, a wounded leviathan seeking refuge on a dead world. "You should have killed it," said a voice behind her. Dr. Rao approached, his tall frame silhouetted against the stars. The charges would have destroyed the heart completely. Instead, it may yet recover. Helena considered this. "Maybe, but I'm not convinced it was just a mindless predator. When I touched the heart, I felt something. Awareness. Purpose." Rao's expression was skeptical. "Anthropomorphization is a common human fallacy. Major, projecting consciousness where there is only instinct." "Perhaps," Helena conceded. "Or perhaps we're too quick to deny consciousness in forms we don't understand." She turned back to the viewport, where the planet was now just a distant speck. "Either way, it's not a decision I was prepared to make unilaterally. The heart samples we collected will tell us more about what this creature truly is." When they returned to Ethan 7, Helena's actions became the subject of intense debate among the station's scientific and military councils. Some praised her ingenuity and courage in saving her crew. Others criticized what they saw as unnecessary risk-taking and a failure to eliminate a clear threat when the opportunity presented itself. The interstellar observers, representatives from all 17 species that maintained the station, convened a formal inquiry. Helena stood before them in the central chamber, the damaged heart tissue samples displayed on floating holographic projectors around her. "Major Miles," began the mersive counselor, their liquid crystal form rippling with formal patterns. "Your encounter with the entity classified as a cosmic predator has raised significant questions about human methods and ethics. Many observers were disturbed by the footage recovered from your exosuit cameras." The chamber's display activated, showing the moment when Helena had driven the hydraulic actuator into the creature's heart. A violent, visceral act that appeared barbaric when viewed out of context. Interstellar observers gasped as a human tore the heart from a cosmic predator, quoted the Therian representative, his voice carrying a note of disapproval. "This is how the incident is being described throughout the station. Some question whether such actions reflect the ethical standards we expect from member species." Helena stood straight, facing the council directly. "With respect, counselors, I did what was necessary to save my crew and potentially prevent future attacks on civilian vessels. The entity had already demonstrated hostile intent and resistance to conventional defenses. My actions were tactical, not barbaric." Cathar, somewhat surprisingly, spoke in her defense. "I witnessed Major Miles' decisions firsthand. She explored all available options before resorting to direct intervention, and it should be noted that she chose not to detonate the explosive charges that would have certainly killed the entity, despite the additional risk this posed to her own safety." Dr. Rao, standing at a nearby console, added his perspective. "The samples we recovered are providing unprecedented insights into xenobiology. The creature's heart tissue exhibits properties we've never encountered before. Energy generation capabilities that could revolutionize our understanding of cosmic life forms." The debate continued for hours, with representatives from various species offering their perspectives on the ethical and practical implications of Helena's actions. Throughout it all, she maintained her composure, answering questions directly and without defensiveness. Finally, the station commander rose to deliver the council's decision. "Major Helena Miles, while your methods have generated controversy, we cannot dispute their effectiveness. Your crew is alive because of your decisive action. Moreover, the data collected has already proven invaluable to our xenobiological research division." He paused, his gaze sweeping the chamber. "However, this incident raises important questions about our collective approach to encounters with unknown life forms. Are we observers? Defenders? Conquerors? These are questions each member species must contemplate as we continue our joint mission." Turning back to Helena, he concluded, You are hereby commended for your courage in the face of extreme danger. The cosmic predator has been designated for continued observation from a safe distance. Should it recover, as preliminary data suggests it might, we will be better prepared for any future encounters. As the formal proceedings concluded, Helena found herself once again on the observation deck, gazing out at the stars. The frozen heart tissue, the small sample she had managed to collect, was being studied in the station's laboratories, already yielding insights into energy manipulation that defied current scientific understanding. Lieutenant Cathar joined her, his normally imposing presence somehow less intimidating after their shared ordeal. "Your species continues to perplex me, Major Miles," he admitted. "Such capacity for violence, yet such reluctance to employ it unnecessarily. It is not what we expected when humans first joined the Interstellar Observers." Helena smiled faintly. "We contain multitudes, Lieutenant, as I suspect do all sentient species." "Perhaps," Cathar acknowledged, "but few would have had the courage, or the brutality, to do what you did. To physically tear into the heart of such a creature, it has made many reconsider their assessment of human capabilities." "Is that good or bad?" Helena asked, genuinely curious. Cathar's expression was unreadable. "It simply is. Knowledge rarely conforms to such binary judgments." They stood in silence for a moment, watching as a research vessel departed the station, bound for the dead planet where the cosmic predator had taken refuge, equipped to monitor its condition from a safe distance. "Do you believe it will recover?" Cathar asked finally. Helena considered the question. The damage she had inflicted had been severe, but calculated. Enough to disable, but not destroy. "I think it will adapt," she said finally. "Life finds a way, especially life that has evolved to survive the harshest environment imaginable." In her private quarters later that evening, Helena activated the Father Protocol one last time. The AI appeared, its holographic form studying her with that familiar expression of concerned pride. "You did well," it told her, its voice a perfect simulation of her father's. "James would have been proud." Helena smiled tiredly. "Would he? I'm not so sure. I damaged a unique life form, potentially endangered my crew through risk-taking, and still don't have definitive answers about what the creature truly is. Science is rarely tidy," the AI reminded her. "Your father understood that better than most. The questions you've raised are as valuable as any answers you might have found." Helena nodded, though not entirely convinced. She reached for the activation console, her finger hovering over the deactivation switch. "I've been thinking. Maybe it's time to let you go. Not permanently. But I need to find my own way forward. Make decisions without always wondering what he would have done." The AI studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "That's exactly what he would have wanted for you. Growth requires independence, Helena. But remember, knowledge is always there when you need it. You need only reach out." With a sad smile, Helena deactivated the projection. The room felt emptier without it, but somehow less confined as well. She moved to the viewport, gazing out at the stars that stretched to infinity. Somewhere out there, a wounded predator was healing. Somewhere out there, countless other life forms waited to be discovered, some peaceful, some hostile, all part of the vast cosmic tapestry that humanity was only beginning to comprehend. Helena placed her hand against the cold plasma glass, feeling the faint vibration of the station systems through her fingertips. The heart tissue samples in the laboratory represented just the beginning, a first step toward understanding the complex biology of a creature evolved to traverse the stars. What other wonders awaited them in the darkness between the stars? What other horrors? The line between the two was often thinner than anyone wanted to admit. But that was the point of the Interstellar Observers, wasn't it? To witness, to learn, to understand, even when understanding required actions that might appear barbaric to some, even when it meant reaching into the heart of a cosmic predator to secure humanity's place among the stars. Helena turned from the viewport, her decision made. Tomorrow, she would request assignment to the research team monitoring the wounded creature. When, it recovered. She wanted to be there to observe, to learn, to understand. After all, that's what her father would have done.